Hi there, I'm Melody. Welcome to the Trans-cendent Podcast. This is an assignment I've been doing for school. So I've kind of made this for, I guess, a little bit about me first. My name is Melody. I'm a trans woman. I kind of figured that out about a year ago. I kind of came to terms with it. I've been on HRT for about 4 months now. And throughout my journey, even though it's been quite short, I've learned a lot and come quite far, undergone a lot of growth, and I wanted to share that with people. And so this is kind of intended for people who are either at the beginning of their journeys, questioning their identity, or just people who want a bit of insight into the trans experience. Um, this is for you. I'm going to be talking about my own experience, kind of give you a trans 101, if you will, kind of all the things you need to know about transition and all the different aspects of it. Um, Big disclaimer that this is just my experience. There is no one right way to be trans, like at all. Um, so if your experience differs in mine, that is totally okay. Just my experience, not gospel or anything. Um, and I'm also going to be focusing, like, pretty much solely on male to female spectrum trans people because that's my experience. So I feel like I can speak about that a bit better. But yeah, let's get going here. So I guess to get started, we should kind of talk about and make sure we're on the same page about what sex and gender are, and what we even really mean when we say trans. These are going to be super kind of broad definitions. There's kind of more complicated ones, and they are kind of changing and developing over time. But broadly, sex is a biological term. It's kind of what you're assigned at birth, either like male or female or intersex. Um, and it is based on kind of external, like your genitalia and things like that. Doctors will observe and say, okay, this is your assigned sex at birth, and then it is kind of assumed that your gender follows that. And gender is kind of your internal sense of who you are, essentially. So, kind of your natural inclination towards masculinity, femininity, somewhere in between. So, that would be like man, woman. That is gender. It's innate, like it's a part of who you are. It's not like chosen. It's not, can't be chosen for you. It's just who you are. It can take some time to figure that out, as I have found out, but it's just who you are. So, sex and gender are different. Um, they're not connected. So just because, like, I was born male, but I'm not a man. And so for people like me, where our sex and gender don't line up, um, that's kind of where we typically use the word trans. Again, it is a very broad term that has kind of changed meaning over time, but I'm going to be using it to mean with people who identify a gender different than the one that was kind of assigned to them at birth. Okie dokie. So yeah, and I'm also going to be using the term gender dysphoria quite a bit. What I mean by that is for somebody who is assigned, like I was assigned masculine at birth. I was told to be a man and told what that experience was like, fit into a very small box. I was in a male body and I started to grow and change in a way that didn't match how I was feeling in the inside. And inside, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. Um, And that dissonance, that disconnect, that pain, even if I didn't know it at the time, that's called gender dysphoria. It's kind of like this existential pain of not matching up quite right. The puzzle pieces weren't fitting. So that's a term I'm going to be using somewhat frequently. So let's get into it. How does one know that they are trans? I'm assuming that if you're here, you might be kind of questioning your gender yourself. And so for me, this kind of coincided with a university class I was taking where I kind of learned about. I was raised like quite religious, so we didn't discuss gender at all. I was a boy, end of sentence. And those gender roles were really kind of strictly enforced. Um, So oh, where am I going with this? I just wasn't aware of gender. I wasn't really able to describe how I was feeling until university, where I took a class where we talked about gender and things like that. And the only things I needed, the only pieces I needed in that class were that sex and gender are different, like I just went over, that gender diverse people have existed since the dawn of time. Like I learned about like two-spirit people, which are like kind of the indigenous people of North America. It was their kind of third gender. Um, and yeah, all I needed to know was that how I was feeling was okay and natural, and that's all it kind of took for me to understand myself. But when I first kind of had this thought, like I was in this class pretty much exactly a year ago from the time I'm recording this, and I kind of had the thought, what if I'm trans? Like I'd seen a documentary with some trans people in it, and I was like, their experiences, um, they seem kind of similar. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if there's anything there. Probably not. um, so yeah, I was kind of like, I wonder if this is something. Um, and if you are kind of in that spot, I know for me, I dealt with a ton of doubt. Like constantly in my head, I was thinking, how can I be sure of this? Am I making it all up? I must be faking it. There weren't any signs. Um, like this is all in my head. This is a phase, that kind of thing. Um, and like that kind of first questioning and that doubt is so difficult to get over. That doubt. If you're dealing with that now, I hope this helps. So yeah, this self-doubt feeling. I wanted so desperately to have a definitive answer. Like I would even like Google like gender dysphoria quiz or am I trans quiz. I just wanted somebody to tell me who I was, because this doubt was so difficult to wrestle with. Turns out people can't decide or tell you who you are. Only you know that. It can be tricky to figure out and trust yourself. But like I can't tell you whether or not you're trans. I can't. Nobody can. Um, that is something you have to explore on your own. Um, but I want to give you some kind of reassurance by talking about some of my own experience, and we'll go from there. So, some of these thoughts that I used to have, there weren't any signs. I'm too old to be experiencing this now. This was like when I was 22. Um, I didn't know when I was younger. I kind of really struggled with these things. It's important to note that people come to terms with their identities all throughout their life. Some kids have a very strong, like, no, I'm a boy, I'm a girl. Like they know who they are very early. Some people transition in like their 50s and 60s. Like it's all over the place, and it does not make you any less valid to realize that later in life. And even if you think um, there weren't any signs, you might come to realize as you see other people's experiences, like other trans people's experiences, that yeah, okay, there was a lot of signs. At least uh, this was the case for me. There was so many signs looking back, and it actually seems quite obvious now. So I'd like to share some of those with you, but I want to emphasize that this is just my experience. If you only relate to some of these, or none of them, or there's more that aren't on here, that doesn't invalidate you in any way. My only hope with this is that if you are struggling with that doubt, there might be a couple things in here that you're like, ooh, okay, maybe this is a thing, because I know that's what really helped me. So, things that I can see now, not at the time. I had no clue at the time. I always felt more comfortable talking around women. Men made me really uncomfortable. I didn't really relate to boys growing up. Like I used to have a lot of girlfriends when I was really young, and eventually gender kind of started getting in the way. Like I started like I could tell that I was different. I was being treated differently because of my gender, where like we started getting being teased for like liking each other, um, and I like, oh, you can't come over because you're a boy, and that pain really hurt. Um, Feeling like I was different from the other girls around me, it was really hard. Um, and like I didn't really relate to the boys my age, like at all. I I felt like I had to be very fake to make uh, male friends. Like I couldn't be myself. I was trying to like be who society was telling me to be. Because there was a lot of um, there was a lot of messaging telling me that how I was feeling inside wasn't okay. You can't hang out with girls. You can't do that. So I tried to be a boy. I tried to make friends with boys, but it was very much a performance, and I didn't really have very many friends growing up because it was always this surface level kind of performative thing. Like I said, saddened with my gender affected other women. I didn't really identify with my name. I didn't like it. Um, like my given name, I should say. Um, it just didn't feel like mine. And I actually remember having a conversation with my parents when I was probably like 4 or 5. I came up to them and I was like, Mom and Dad, I don't like my name. I don't think it's my name. It doesn't feel like it's mine. And they were like, oh, okay. What name do you like? Like, what name would you want? And I sat there, little 4-year-old me, thinking, be like, I can't think of any boy names I like. I said that to my parents, but no signs, obviously. um, so yeah, that was obviously a sign of not identifying with my male name. I would wear my mom and sister's clothes when they were out of the house or I was like doing laundry, and this was like another thing where I found out very quickly that how I was feeling was not okay, or that's how I perceived it anyway. It is okay. Um, but I remember my mom kind of catching me trying on her clothes and kind of the look of like disgust in her eyes and the shame I felt. I was like, oh, okay. I can't express myself in this way. So that was kind of another moment of like realizing, okay, this is not who society says I can be. I didn't. I hate like I wore like a stained T-shirt and shorts for most of my life. I did not care about the way I dressed because I didn't really like male clothes that much. But I was very interested in female clothes. Like I'd often look at women's outfits and be like in my head like, oh my God, that's so cute. I love that skirt with that top. And kind of like just really love female clothing. Um, yeah, like I said, being one of the boys kind of, it always felt very forced. It just wasn't me. When puberty kind of kicked in around like grade 6 or 7 for me, I fell into a really, really deep depression. Um, like I hated what was happening with my body, and I didn't really have the language because I wasn't taught about gender growing up to describe how I was feeling. It just felt wrong. Even though people told me it was normal, it felt wrong. Um, I just hated everything that was happening to me. It was really, really hard. Um, and along with that came suicidality. Um, that is something I've struggled with for a lot of my life. A lot of trans people do before they transition, where I was just like, I do not know what is wrong, but I don't think I want to be alive anymore. There's this pain, there's this emptiness. It was like this sense of grief and loss within me, something that just wasn't right. Um, but I couldn't describe it. Like I didn't know what it was. So I was kind of like, you know what? I don't know why I'm not happy, and I don't think like I didn't I didn't do anything because I didn't want to hurt other people in my life, the people who cared about me. And so I thought, well, if I can't be happy, me being unhappy is affecting them. So I need to kind of hide how I'm feeling. I need to be the strong man they told me to be, hide my emotions, and just serve other people and be content that I might not ever be happy because I didn't know what was wrong. So disassociation is a term you might hear in reference to trans experiences and things like that. Um, this is really hard to describe. It was kind of around the same time that puberty kicked in, where I like mentally checked out of my experience. So I have very few memories from that time, like of like the past decade. I remember very little of it. Days would just slip by. Like I'd blink and I feel like a year went by. Like my life was just pouring out so quickly. Um, it was like kind of this feeling of like being underwater. Everything was dulled. Like I didn't feel any emotions. I didn't feel connected to people. I didn't feel like I was living my life because I wasn't. Um, it was like watching a movie of my life, or like in third person. And like when you watch a movie, you don't remember it, or all of it, or maybe that's just me. But yeah, that dissociated state um, is a response to the trauma I was experiencing of gender dysphoria and all that. So that makes sense now, but at the time, like I could kind of tell that this isn't normal. I don't think people experience time this way, but I didn't really know why. I didn't identify with my body, so like I obviously hated it. Like I had a lot of body image issues, but I'd also like look in the mirror and like not recognize it was me. Like I'd be at the gym where like there's mirrors everywhere, and I'd be like, "Who's that creepy dude staring at me? Like, what's his problem?" And I'd be like, "Oh, that's me." Like I'd have to like move my hand to recognize that, oh, that's my body, because I did not associate it with it at all. My internal sense of who I was like, no, that is not me. Whew. Um, whenever I was like asked to represent myself as a person, either be like a video game or like in Dungeons and Dragons, role playing stuff, I always created female characters every single time. And I didn't really think about it. I was just like, yeah, of course, super normal, right? These are totally cis things to do. um, I really relied on escapism. Like I played a ton of video games. I didn't really any excuse not to experience what I was experiencing, I would take it. So yeah, I spent so much time playing video games and things like that. Because there I could be a woman. There I didn't have to be me. I didn't have to be unhappy. Um, yeah, I would often think about being a girl, or like sometimes wish I was a girl. Think about like, what if I was born a girl? I thought about that a lot. Thinking like life would be better if I was a girl. Um, when kind of my sexual attraction started kicking in, um, I was like, okay, I'm attracted to women. But it wasn't just that. It was more than that. It wasn't just, oh, she's attractive. I want to be with her. It was a, it was an intense envy, a jealousy. It's called gender envy, where I was like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. She's amazing. I want to be her, or I wish I could be her. So I actually kind of grew kind of resentful of women for a little bit, just because they had something that I didn't, something that I couldn't have, and that I really wanted. So that gender envy was definitely something I struggled with. I'd often have dreams of being a girl. Not all the time, but sometimes I dream about being a girl. And I guess kind of jumping back to the suicidality piece, like I would often dream about like getting cancer or getting in a car accident, any like guilt-free way of like having a way out. I would dream of that as well. Or like I had a hard time distinguishing dreams from reality because in a dissociated state, everything kind of feels a little dreamlike. So I had like a hard time being like, did I dream that? Did that happen? I'd often like go to bed and like pray that I'd wake up and find out that everything I'd been living was not true, and I was living a different life, and I was happy. Um, yeah, just yeah. Okay. I've had a big lack of purpose. Like I did not know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't really want to do anything. I only did other things for other people or to make them so that they were comfortable, so they weren't worrying about me. Um, and I can see now that it was because I didn't see any future for myself as a man. I just didn't. Still don't, because I'm not. I was very discomfort or uncomfortable with like male roles that were put on me. Like it didn't feel right, um, kind of being that way. Like whenever people would compliment me for being masculine, like you're so handsome, you're so strong, you're so brave. Like that made me really uncomfortable. I hated that. Like you're such a nice young man. You're gonna be a father someday. Like all that stuff made my skin crawl. I hated it. Um, sorry, it just sometimes hits me like I should have figured this out, but it's really hard to. Um, I felt a really deep shame for my inherent femininity. Like I was ashamed of my emotions and my desire to be female. Um, and that's because I'll get into it a little bit later, but we get taught there's so much misogyny in our culture. Um, Femininity gets equated with weakness. And so having all of that shoved into me as a trans girl growing up, I was like, who I am is weakness. It's not okay. I was taught to like hate who I was. I had a lot of deep resentment and shame for what I was feeling on the inside. Had a really hard time remembering things. I think I already talked about that a little bit. Trouble relating to other people. Didn't have very many friends. I didn't really experience emotion because I was in that dissociated state. Like I didn't feel. It was just like this persistent melancholy. Um, I thought I was a sociopath. Like honestly, I knew something was wrong. Like people don't feel this way. I felt so hollow, and I worried I was a sociopath that I couldn't feel. That wasn't true. I feel a lot now. Um, and then, kind of the last one I wanted to talk about is I went through this phase where I was like, okay, uh, being a man is like miserable. I don't like this. I don't like being a man. I must not be doing it properly. Like this is who they told me who I was supposed to be. I'm clearly not doing it hard enough. I'm gonna like man harder. So I grew a beard. Put on a ton of muscle. I got a girlfriend. I was like trying to be the masculine person that I was told to be. Started going to university, um, and then that emptiness remained. That emptiness was always there. Um, so this doubt, it's so hard. I had all of this, all of these things, and I was still like, I must be faking it. No, I can't be. um, so I guess my biggest advice is if you're struggling with doubt, and questioning is totally healthy, by the way. Like you can question and find out you're trans or not trans. Like that more people should be more actively questioning their gender. Um, but yeah, if you're struggling with doubt, take some comfort in the wondering, in the asking. Like if you have been agonizing over this, like it's in your mind all the time for weeks or months, it's all you can think about. Going back and forth. I think I might be trans. I might not be trans. Like just that doubt creeping in. Hun, that's not a very cis way to be. um, like obviously cis people can explore their genders, but if you are agonizing over it, um, take some comfort in the asking. Um, yeah, that's not a very cis thing to do. um, and also, biggest thing for overcoming doubt is the biggest thing for me in kind of overcoming it was seeing my experience reflected in other people, and even in media. I'd actually a big turning point for me. I was struggling with doubt, and I watched this movie. I saw The TV Glow. It's by a trans filmmaker, and it is like a kind of horror movie about like the existential terror of kind of living with gender dysphoria, and like the trans experience essentially. Um, and watching that movie for the first time, it was like somebody had like brought a camera into my soul. Um, I had never felt so seen by something before, and the way that movie impacted me, like that helped me realize, okay, this is real. Like just having like this is like a kind of dramatized version of another trans woman's experience dealing with that, and watching it and being like, "Fuck, that's me. That is me." Was really powerful for me. So I'd recommend that. It is a bit of a tough watch. Like it's very emotional. Like I was pretty wrecked by it. But it is like it's like the quintessential trans girl film. So yeah, if you're struggling with doubt and you like kind of experimental artsy horror, I would give it a watch. Just make sure you're in like the right space for it because it's not a super happy movie, but it's really good. Um, and then a couple other things is if you're kind of not sure, experiment. Clothes, makeup. The first time I ever smiled at myself in the mirror was when I was wearing makeup. Like I hated looking in the mirror, but when I put makeup on, I couldn't stop grinning like a goon. I was so happy. Um, and yeah, clothing, makeup, great way to do it. Um, and even with all this, I wasn't completely sure, like 100% sure, until I started HRT, which means hormone replacement therapy, by the way. We'll get into that. I wasn't sure until then. But within a couple of weeks, I was like, okay, I know, this is me. I'm sure. This experience can be a bit of a leap of faith in some ways, but I just want you to know doubt is super normal. Seek out other people's experiences. You're going to be okay. Okay. So, you think you're trans. What do we do now? This realization for me was one of the most scary experiences of my life. Uh, like my entire reality had shifted. Um, all the pain that I had felt, my entire life made sense in an instant. Um, and I had nobody to talk to about it. I was completely isolated. I was alone. I was scared. And there's so much you have to consider being a trans person. There's so much you have to like learn and think about, and it could be really, really scary. It was really scary for me. So I kind of want to share my experience with you and the things that have been a part of my transition and are part of the transition for some other trans women. Um, just to kind of give you a lay of the land of things that you should be considering, give you some resources, give you some information to make this a little less scary and kind of give you a bit of a guide on transition. But again, there's no one right way to do it. This is a very like personal process. So if I talk about something, you're like, I don't know if I want that, like that's okay. That doesn't make you any less valid. Doesn't make you any less of a woman or however you identify. Um, this is just my experience. Okay, let's dive into it. So I talked about it a bit earlier. HRT, hormone replacement therapy. So before we dive into this, I need to make it super clear that I'm not an expert at all, at all, at all. Um, so this is not medical advice. Please do your own research. Talk to a doctor. Um, this is just me talking about my experience. I just want to make that really clear. So for me, when I kind of made the decision to start HRT, um, I did it with my much as my GP. He was willing to help me with that, and I kind of found out very quickly that it he was trying his best, bless him, but he didn't know what he was doing, like at all. I was not receiving adequate care. So no matter what path you take, if you're looking at doing HRT, um, I really recommend educating yourself. Like you don't need to be like an expert, but you should understand what's going on so you can actually advocate for yourself. So I'm going to give you kind of the basics of what I've learned. But again, not a doctor. Please do your own research. But doing research is super important, just so you can advocate for yourself and make sure you're getting adequate care. And I'm just going to be talking about male to female hormone therapy. So that would be like with estrogen. It would be with testosterone for female to male trans people. But I have no experience in that, so I don't want to really speak on it. So HRT kind of is made up of two main parts. And actually, before you get started with HRT, the first thing that should be done is you get a baseline measurement of your hormone levels, so your like testosterone, your estrogen, and all the other things that you're going to be measuring. Like my doctor didn't get a baseline, so make sure that there is a baseline measurement before you start with any medication. But the treatment itself is usually made up of two separate pieces. One is like the sex hormone, so estrogen, and the other one is an anti-androgen, or like a T blocker, it's commonly called. So for feminizing to take place, because this is essentially like puberty again, um, because you're taking hormones. But for the estrogen to do its thing, uh, the testosterone in your body like really kind of takes over it and like doesn't let it do its thing. So you need to lower that, and that's what the anti-androgens are for, the T blocker. Um, the two most common T blockers that are used are spironolactone, Spiro it's usually shortened to, and cyperterone are the most common anti-androgen medications. In my experience, I've tried both, and just from talking with other trans people, again, not medical advice at all, I found cyperterone way more effective. Like Spiro wasn't really working for me, but Spiro wasn't working for me, but cyperterone like absolutely nuked my testosterone. It worked really well. Um, so yeah, you need to reduce that first to have the estrogen do its thing. And then when you are taking estrogen, it can be delivered in a bunch of different ways. So pills are the most common because they're cheap and they're just the most commonly used. Um, in my experience with pills, because that's what I use, um, if you got to make sure it's estradiol hemihydrate is like the formulation of it. But from my research, again, not medical advice, but what really improved my levels were taking it transdermally, so underneath my tongue and letting it dissolve. It has to do with how it's absorbed into the liver. Um, and also taking it, like I was taking it all at once at first. Like I was taking like 4 milligrams in the morning. And then by the end of the day, I'd have no hormones in my system and I'd feel horrible. So spreading those out. So I take 4 1 milligrams pills a day. So I try to spread them out every 6 hours. But let's say you were on 2 milligrams. You could take one at night, one before, or one in the morning, one before bed, kind of thing. But again, talk to your doctor before you start doing things like that. And then other ways of taking estrogen, pills, gel, injections, those are kind of like the main four. I have less experience in those, but they are used. Um, so just kind of, there's a lot of kind of myths around HRT, or maybe not myths, maybe more anxieties, but there's this idea that like HRT is really, really dangerous. Like it's going to really, really affect your health and potentially like limit your life and things like that. Um, And there are like some potential side effects. Um, like you need to be careful about blood clots and things like that. But it is not nearly as big of a deal as some people make it out to be. It is not that risky when you compare it to like other medical treatments that are pretty common. Um, so yeah, just don't let that stop you because sometimes people can really overblow that. And then also, a lot of people think I can't, like they're scared to start HRT because they are still struggling with doubt. And they're like, what if I'm not sure? The changes are irreversible. I don't want to mess up and do something I regret. And I totally get where that comes from. And some of the changes are irreversible after a while, but that's the key point, after a while. It's not like you take one estrogen pill and you're just changed forever. You can go on HRT for a couple of weeks and decide it's not for you and be totally fine. And most of the changes are reversible anyway. Um, um, but like for me, within a couple of weeks, I knew. Like I knew within a couple of days. It just felt right. Um, Changes with HRT can be very slow, like very slow. Like this is a process measured in years, not weeks or months. So like the things will start at different times, but like it will take roughly about 5 years to kind of get the maximum effect. Like 5 years. So changes can be slow. They happen at different times for different people. So just because you're 2 years in and you haven't had as much changes as somebody who's 1 year in, it's just like puberty. Sometimes it works differently with different people. So just be conscious of that and try to be patient. I know it's super hard. I just want things to happen faster than they are. I'm about 4 months in, by the way. But yeah, just got to be patient. Okay. And then the last kind of general piece of advice with HRT is that this is like a second puberty. Um, like it is a second puberty. So eat. I know a lot of us struggle with like body image and things like that, and some of us might want to lose weight, but like you are growing, you are changing. If you and a lot of the changes rely on fat distribution. So if you want those changes to happen, you have to fuel your body. So eat, 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 exercise, sleep. Sleep a lot. Um, like treat it like you are a teenager again. You'll kind of feel like a teenager again as well. Uh, yeah. So in terms of accessing HRT, like you've decided, okay, this is something I want to do. How do I do it? This will depend where you live in terms of if you have access. Like unfortunately, if you're a minor, or even if you're not, depending on where you live, accessing HRT through traditional channels might not be an option for you. And if that is you, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Who you are is valid, and you deserve to be you. Um, we'll get into the social stuff later, but yeah, don't let that take away from who you are. Anyway, sorry. And like depending on where you are, you might need like an official gender dysphoria diagnosis to be able to access it. Um, your like general practitioner might prescribe it for you, but you might also need to be put on a wait list to see like a professional, uh, like an endocrinologist. There we go, or something like that. And that can take a really long time. Accessing HRT can be a real pain in the ass. Um, it can take a really long time. It can be really frustrating. Um, yeah, it's just a sad reality. Um, so that's one option. Going through like the traditional, go talk to a doctor. You might need to get diagnosis, things like that, and then they'll prescribe it for you. And again, make sure you understand how HRT works. I'll kind of share some resources with you and go over that so you understand it a bit better. Even if you do go through a professional, make sure you know, just so you're receiving adequate care. Then the other option is to go DIY, which means like do it yourself. So this would mean getting access to hormones either online or locally. You could talk to your local trans community. They might have access, or somebody might have a supply. If you're going to go this way, super, super extra important that you know what you're doing, um, because you're essentially like becoming your own doctor. Know what you are doing. This can be a bit, depending on where you live, this might be a bit legally dubious. So also, not medical advice, not legal advice. um, but this is an option that a lot of trans people take. And if you are interested in learning more about DIY, I linked here, and then I'll also try to put it in the description of the video. A great video by a trans woman, Lily Alexandre. She talks about DIY HRT and kind of her experience with it and gives a bunch of great information. So if you're interested in going DIY, I'd recommend looking at that. And then no matter what, I'd recommend there's the WPATH guidelines. Those are like the world standard for transgender healthcare. They are a bitch to read. They are very doctory. It is hard to make sense of, but that is like the main document that a lot of people use. So I linked that. I'll put that in the description as well. And then there is another one that I've linked from Rainbow Health Ontario. And this is a guide using pretty much, I think it's just using the WPATH guidelines as like a source, but it is a lot easier to read. It's a lot more user friendly if you're not like a medical person. Um, so yeah, I think that is all the preamble I wanted to go through. Again, no matter what uh, what kind of route you go down, inform yourself. Please, please, please. And now we can talk about some of the fun things. So we're going to talk about the changes that come with HRT. Again, this is just male to female HRT. And it's important to note that like this is very different from person to person. So there's a heavy your mileage may vary warning here, where to what degree, when it'll happen, things like that will depend from person to person. But I just kind of wanted to give you a general idea of some of the things that can come because sometimes people think HRT doesn't do that much. It does a lot. It's magic. And so if you're curious about like when things normally start to happen and kind of when they reach their peak, check out the Rainbow Health guidelines that I'll link below. They kind of give you a good guide on like time. But yeah, let's go over some of the changes. Your skin's going to get softer because there's going to be more like fat between like kind of your muscles and your skin. So your skin's going to get soft, your skin will get thinner. Fat redistribution. So you're going to start to build up fat around the hips and it'll change where it is in your face. You'll have a more feminine looking face. Hard to describe, but yeah, your face will become more feminine due to the fat redistribution. Boobs. You can grow boobs. Breast development. It will decrease your muscle mass. So if you're like me and we're like, I'll go to the gym and be a strong man, this will help you if you want to kind of reduce your muscle mass and your size. This will help you with that. Decreased oiliness of skin. This can actually help quite a bit with acne. It will decrease your libido. I know for me, I always felt really uncomfortable with having testosterone in my system. Like I hated how I felt. Like I just, I don't know. Forgive me for being crass, but boy, horny. I didn't like how that felt. So the decreased libido has actually felt really nice for me. It's felt more normal. Um, You'll stop getting spontaneous erections. No more uncomfortably waking up in the middle of the night. Hooray. Um, I guess small note on this. It might be TMI, but I'll talk about it anyway. Because you're not getting spontaneous erections anymore, it is a muscle, and that is why that happens, so that like it functions essentially. So if that stops happening automatically, the muscle will start to atrophy, and eventually might not be able to get erect. So there is kind of a use it or lose it kind of thing that comes with once you start HRT with erections. But again, I'm not an expert, just from my own experience and what I've heard. Um, it'll affect your sperm production. Your testicles will get smaller. Eventually, after a long enough time, this does lead to infertility. This is one of like the unchangeable things. Um, but there's things we can do about it. If you want to have kids, there are sperm banks. You can freeze your sperm, and that's not really a huge deal. Or there's adoption. There's a lot of different options when it comes to that. It will thin and slow the production of body hair, facial hair a little bit, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. Body hair, again, your mileage may vary. I was a very hairy person, and I'm going to probably need to do some hair removal for some of my hair. Decreases in height and like smaller shoe size are possible. It's not for everybody, and it's not a lot, but it doesn't have to do anything with bones. It doesn't change bones. It is all in your ligaments can like kind of compact a little bit. So some people like get like an inch shorter or something like that. It will stop male pattern baldness, and it can potentially help you grow your hair back. So like if your hairline is receding, it can stop that, and I've seen it like really help people with actually growing it back. It'll change like the texture of your hair too, which is cool. It might increase your sense of smell. Like I didn't really have a sense of smell before. Um, yeah, like I just didn't have a sense of smell. But now I can kind of smell things, and it's cool. Estrogen's awesome. Might feel sensations differently, like how like your neck or your skin might be more sensitive. Um, you'll produce less sweat. It'll change the way you smell. And then there's the emotional changes where you will experience emotions differently. I wouldn't say you like experience more emotions, but it's like going between like 720p emotions and 4K emotions. um, they just feel a lot more deeper and full-bodied. Um, and for me, love that. It feels so much better. Just estrogen feels right in my brain. I think this is what it was meant to run on. So yeah, and like for the first little bit, when you're going through these emotional changes, it is very pubescent. Like you will feel kind of like a unreasonable teenager at points, but that's totally normal. Give yourself some kindness when it comes to that kind of stuff. Uh, Things that HRT will not change. It's not going to completely remove your facial hair. It's not going to change your voice. Like this is still my natural speaking voice, but it's not going to change your bone structure. Um, and it's not going to change your sexuality with an asterisk, with that being that a lot of people do kind of rediscover their sexuality after starting HRT because now that they are their true selves, they kind of feel able to explore that. But it's not going to change it necessarily. It just might let you experience and access the world more authentically, which is cool. And to get a better idea of like the effects of HRT and things that it can do, I recommend checking out a subreddit called r/transition timelines or trans timelines. I'll try to link it in the description, but it's just people posting about their transitions, and you can see what's possible. I know it was really good for giving me hope and kind of showing me what I could expect. And yeah, HRT is pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. Uh, there is other stuff outside of HRT that we need to talk about. There's a lot of kind of other things that come along with transition, and this is kind of take it a flavor to taste a little bit here. Not all people will do all these things, but I thought I'd talk about them. So hair removal, like we said, facial hair tends to stay, so if you want to get rid of it, you're going to need to seek out hair removal. Your options are kind of laser or electrolysis. Lasers is what I've been using, but again, I'm not an expert. Um, I'd recommend for hair removal. It's painful, it's expensive, it sucks. But if you're going to go that route, look up in your city, look for like LGBT friendly salons and things like that. Look at Google reviews. Look for laser techs who are supportive of trans people because that goes a long way. Sorry, just one second. So changing your name. So first you got to find one. Naming yourself can be a lot of fun, but it can also be stressful. I know for me, I just liked the way it sounded. I liked melody. Thought it was cute. And I also liked I was always a very musical person. And I liked if you think of like the identity of a song being the melody, finding my melody and being able to, having the strength to play it loud is kind of the way I thought about it. So you can get cheesy with it like I did, or you can just pick a name that you think sounds pretty. That's totally cool. Changing your name like legally will depend heavily on where you live. Yeah, I can't give a ton of advice like that. I'm from Saskatchewan, so I will leave you a super awesome Saskatchewan name change guide in the description. But if you're not from Saskatchewan, yeah, you just have to look at your own country, your own province, whatever. So voice training, your voice isn't gonna change on its own, but it is like an instrument. You can train it. It's super hard, and it's gonna require a lot of practice. And I'd like to emphasize that you don't have to do this. Think of this as like a method of expressing yourself. Your voice is the instrument for expressing yourself. So if you want that instrument, that voice to be more feminine, if that feels right for you, then do voice training. If you are happy with your voice and the only reason you're considering voice training is to like fit what society thinks a woman should be, fuck that. Just be you. If you like your voice as is, that's awesome. It doesn't make you any less of a woman. But if you're interested in voice training, there is a company called Seattle Voice Lab who does like professional lessons. That's who I've been going through. Um, and there's also a lot of free, awesome stuff on YouTube. Check out trans voice lessons, things like that on YouTube. I'll link them again in the description. That's like the name of the channel. There's lots of options for that. And it's just practice, practice, practice. I'm still working on it. It's really hard. But like, this is like my natural voice. Like, this would just be me talking normally. And I'll try to do my femme voice. I don't know. I haven't practiced today. It might be a little rough. But it'd be something like that. Oh boy. Okay, let's try that again. Hi, how are you? It'd be something like this. Hello, I'm Melody. Nice to meet you. So going from here to hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? So something like that. It's still rough, obviously. I don't need to keep practicing, but it can come. And let's talk surgeries, because that's a lot of people think about that and talk about that with trans stuff. And again, I want to stress, like the voice training, this is not a requirement at all. This is, if you're going to do surgery, do it for you, not because you think you have to fit in a box. But like, if you are experiencing dysphoria and you need to do that to be your authentic self, go for it. That's what it's there for. But don't do it because you think you have to. So for male to female trans people, the most common ones are facial feminization surgery, or FFS, and sex reassignment surgery, SRS. Waitlist can be long. It can be really expensive. Again, only do it if you want to. Um, and yeah, like you don't have to decide right away. You can wait. That's okay. You do not need them to be valid. I want to stress that. There's no one way to be trans. Just be you. Okay, so this is all like the physical stuff. Journey's not done. Still lots to do. So your next big step is going to be learning to accept yourself. And this can be really hard. So for me, what has really helped in this journey, or part of the big help, is I read a book called Whipping Girl by Julia Serrano. And she breaks down um, transphobia, misogyny, sexism in our culture and how prevalent it is. So she points out how even though most people would say men and women are equal, femininity is not treated equally to masculinity. Masculinity is seen as like strong and natural and desirable, where femininity is seen as weak, frivolous, and undesirable, and like kind of fake in a way. Um, these messages are everywhere in culture, and as like growing up as trans people, as trans girls, this fucks us up, to put it kind of bluntly. It really messes with our sense of self. Um, I hated myself. I was taught to hate myself for who I was. But identifying those messages and kind of fighting against them can be super impactful or super helpful. So I'd recommend that book. It's a bit older, so some of the language is not kind of what we use nowadays. But I still found it personally incredibly powerful and would highly recommend it. And then, yeah. So in terms of kind of the societal stuff, we have this idea of what a woman is. There's a societal idea of what a woman is. And a lot of trans people, when they're first starting out, feel like this intense desire to pass, meaning like that you can like pass as a cis woman. This is kind of a manifestation of internalized transphobia, a little bit. If you're feeling that way, I'm not attacking you. I feel that way too. I've felt that way. Um, but I just want to say, women come in all shapes and sizes. There's no one right way to be a woman. Trans is beautiful. If you're visibly trans, you are beautiful. You are valid. Um, we are just as valid as cis people. We have existed since the dawn of time, quite literally. We deserve to be here. This is our planet too. We are just as valid. There's no trans enough. Like, there's no one right way to be trans. So if you don't pass, or you don't want surgery, you don't have bottom dysphoria, do not let that take away from you. It does not devalue you in any way. You are a woman. You are valid. Okay. um, this is really easy to say. It is a lot harder to accept for yourself. I've struggled with this a ton. The biggest thing, so learning about it through like reading a book like Whipping Girl is a big thing. And then the next big thing is community. You gotta connect with other trans people, or just allies. It will it will change your life. It has for me. Um, I had a hard time finding community at first. I didn't think it was really attainable for me. I went into like the Pride Center at my local university. I awkwardly stumbled in and was like too anxious to say anything, and I left. But all it took was like being brave and being willing to be me. And I've found a community of amazing people, and I know you can too. And just forming relationships with other trans people um, is extremely powerful. It's really healing. Um, looking in another trans woman's eyes and knowing that you share an experience and that you will understand each other on like a level deeper than most relationships, it's really special. It's super special. Um, the trans sisterhood, if you will, is pretty amazing. Um, they have helped me a lot, and I guess I'm here because I want to help you. Um, but yeah, community, community, community. That is how you will heal. That is how you'll learn to accept yourself. That is how we weather the world, is through community. And you'll learn to accept yourself by seeing other trans people You'll see how amazing they are, how beautiful they are. You'll not only learn to accept yourself, but be proud of who you are. Take pride in it. Because trans people are really fucking cool. We're some of the only people that look deeply into ourselves and have to like redefine who we are. Fight for our right to be us. Stand tall in a hostile world. You are a badass. You are awesome. Being trans is so cool. Um, and yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. Again, yeah, community is super important. There's a lot of online communities. There's going to be local communities in your area. Just look them up. It can be really scary to go at first, but you need to do it, my friend. Like it'll help you so much, or at least it has helped me so much. Um, okay, so wow, we've done lots of stuff, physical stuff. We've done emotional kind of healing. Now we got to tell people about it. So coming out can be really hard. It can be a very scary thing, and it can be potentially dangerous depending on your situation. In my experience, I haven't really encountered any hate, like blatant hate. It's more been kind of like people being uncomfortable or avoiding me and things like that, and that can be painful too. Um, this is not a problem with me. Just people don't know how to connect, and when somebody is like vulnerable, they get uncomfortable. They don't want to say the wrong thing, so they don't say anything. Um, don't take it as a problem with you. Um, in my own experience, I found the best way to come out to my family was through writing a letter. That's how I did it. I found that that was a good way to get out exactly what I wanted to say without like getting kind of flustered. And also giving them a chance to digest it and kind of process it before responding, because it is a big thing. But that's just for me. Um, no one right way to come out. Do it however you need to. And again, I've been incredibly lucky to have support. If you are dealing with something where you don't have support, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There are people out there who will support you and who will love you. Find them, cherish them, hold them close. Um, yeah, yeah. The people in your life, if they don't support you, they weren't your friends. They weren't your family. But you have a family and friends out there. You do. Um, and when you're coming out, like I know I was really worried about people. I thought I was going to get a lot more hate than I have. Like I was really worried about my grandparents. They really surprised me. So kind of trying not to have expectations, but again, this will depend on your situation. And like if you get the feeling that it's going to be unsafe, like be prepared. Like have a friend or something lined up. Yeah, just be careful. Coming out, again, very individual experience. But yeah, it's kind of been my experience with it. Okay, so we got to talk about it. um, Being trans in the world can be really scary. Like as I'm recording this, and like kind of my transition coincided with Trump's second term. And that's been really fucking scary. I'll be honest with you. I describe it as like waking up only to find you're being strangled. And it can be really hard to stand up and be who you are when there is, especially now, a lot of hate in the world. Um, so I just wanted to talk about that. Um, so one of my like the first like real trans friend I made, one thing that she said to me was, "Don't let it scare you, let it activate you." And that's hard to do. Like I'm still kind of scared. But what she meant by that is get connected to community, stay aware, stay active, be ready to go, and just connect with other people. We're not going to get through this alone. We got to do it together. Um, Stay aware, stay connected to community. Know where the safe spaces are. Know which spaces aren't safe. Be smart about going out, dating, bathrooms. Use your friends. Like if you're going on a date, make sure they know. Yeah, just be smart. I don't want to be alarmist. Um, there's a lot of supportive people out there who will support you, and like there is community. You'll find it. But yeah, there's a lot of hate, and it's really difficult and scary. Yeah, um, yeah, community. Stay connected, and to kind of like make sense, because I know I struggled to like make sense of like the current state of things going on. Uh, Helpful video that I'd like to recommend with you is and Abigail Thorne's really cool. She's kind of a trans role model in a way. She's like a actor, screenwriter, playwright. She's done a ton of stuff, and she runs a philosophy channel called Philosophy Tube. And she breaks down this book by Judith Butler, Who's Afraid of Gender, which is kind of a like philosophical kind of look at the current kind of wave of hate going on towards transgender people. And she breaks it down. I found it a helpful way of kind of understanding what was going on. And in that video, the through line in it is Abigail having like a conversation with her pre-transition self. And I found that really, really moving. And it helped me process my own self-hate, like almost watching her argue with and support herself through the self-doubt was really quite cool. But yeah, navigating the world, stay safe, stay connected, be smart. Community, community, community. I guess is all I have to say. Um, so that I'm gonna kind of wrap it up here. A couple more resources I wanted to tell you, or just like book recommendations, really. Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Trans by Bryn Tannehill. This is a great book going over kind of the basics of kind of like the trans community, so like terminology, etiquette, common misconceptions, frequently asked questions. If you're like me, like I was raised Catholic, I didn't know anything about gender. This is actually helpful for me to kind of get my footing in the community. And it's a great book to give to other people. Like this is a book I gave to my parents, and is like a good resource to kind of just have and give to people if they have questions, because it can be hard to have this put on you to be like the the arbiter of all that is trans, and you have to teach everybody. So having something to like give to people is helpful. Um, Transgender History by Suzanne Stryker goes over kind of how like the current movement, and kind of the setup to the current trans community. Cool thing about being trans is it comes with a whole history. You're part of like a movement and a people, and learning about that can help you build some pride. And it's just, I don't know, that was a good book. And then also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but this is technically like an assignment I'm doing for a course, and as part of that course, I had to pick like a textbook, and my textbook was like the Queer and Transgender Resiliency Workbook, and it's kind of about building your self-esteem. There's a lot of questions you answer. Um, this one is by Annalise Singh. Um, it was kind of helpful for me. It was more focused for people who are like out, and I wasn't really out at the time, but it might be a great resource for you if you're trying to work on your self-worth and build your resiliency. So that kind of brings us to the end. I hope this has been helpful for you. I truly do. Transition is difficult. It's really hard. Like if you watch this and are like, holy shit, I'm trans, like girl, you got this. It's super scary, but transition is a beautiful thing. It has saved my life. Like actually, being a man was killing me, and I'm alive, and you can be alive too. um, Life is too short to not be you. Be you. Be brave. Be beautiful. Be trans. Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna leave you there. I am Melody. I'm gonna try that again. I'm Melody. I am trans and proud to be so. Thank you for listening.